Hey guys, MotorCarNut here, and today we're talking about a code P0607, which is a control module performance. It's a computer code. All right, so now on Toyotas, I've seen it a lot, and probably this video is going to help you out. Don't get scared. It's probably not the computer. There's a couple of things you can check first, and we're going to go over those. So the first thing is, why is that code coming up? Well, that code is coming up because the computer self-checks itself. And when something's out of the parameters of whatever it was designed and programmed for, it'll set that code. But a lot of times on these particular Toyota models, it can be codes related to O2 sensors, oxygen sensors, because they're directly wired into that computer. They control, it's hard to explain, but basically, the computer has separate circuits inside that computer itself that is related to the air and fuel mixture, because the computer has to know how the engine is running, and how it knows by that. That's one of the sensors among the coolant temperature sensors and all the other sensors. But what triggers those codes is the O2 sensor. All right. So this is, before we jump to that, you got to make sure that the battery is fully charged. You have to make sure that the alternator is good. All right, you got proper voltage. I have videos on how to check with the proper voltage of an alternator in a car running and at idle and when it's off. All right, and you have to make sure your ground wires are good. You know, you always got to take care of your basic things first. People love to spend money and throw parts at a car when a lot of times it's just a simple neglect, basically, that all you got to do is tighten something up or replace a $2 part. All right, so just make sure all those checks are done first. Now, with that P0607, let's assume that there's other codes with that. All right, you address those codes first. You do not address the P0607. For instance, you can have O2 codes, which is P0136 all the way up to 139. All right, but if you have the P0138, that code, I would say about maybe 15 or 20 Toyotas come in within a year that had the P07, and all of them was the rear O2 sensor. Okay, and that's another terminology. You'll hear bank 1, sensor 1, bank 1, sensor 2. What does that mean? Well, this is a 4-cylinder, and what that means, upstream, downstream, is basically, I'm going to show you, but basically wherever the exhaust comes out from the manifold, the first O2 sensor is going to be upstream. Okay, and then all the way down is going to be the downstream. Now, if it's a 6-cylinder or has 8-cylinder, well, it's going to have 4 of them or even more. It all depends on the car, but we're talking about this Toyota right now. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And bank 1, sensor 1 is basically, bank 1, sensor 1 is the first one on the top that comes out of as soon as the exhaust comes out of the engine into the exhaust manifold. That top sensor is bank 1, sensor 1, and also known as upstream. Then we have the downstream, which is bank 1, sensor 2, and that's the one we're going to look at today. Okay, that's the one that's the culprit on these cars. All right, so let's go. I'm going to show you what it looks like up there, but you probably know the exhaust is up here. All right, manifold is up there. The O2 sensor is up there. The top, the upstream, bank 1, sensor 1. And then, let me shut this off. Okay, and now, right here, that's the downstream. That's bank 1, sensor 2. This is probably the culprit. It has, I think that's a 7/8 drive, or you can use a O2 sensor socket, or however to get it off. And now it clips up right up there. You see it's on the plastic manifold. It has the little connector right there. And that is the problem if you have this code along with the P0607. Now, why would that be? Is because the computer is checking itself, and for some reason, those O2 codes, If they're wrong, the computer thinks that, okay, maybe it's the computer and not the sensor. So it sets that code too. That's why if you have the P0607, you always check any other codes first. And if you have too many codes, what you can do is erase all the codes. Okay, start it up and see what comes back first. Okay, let's say the 607 comes back, but also you have another code coming up from an O2 sensor or mass airflow sensor. Fix those codes first because they could be triggering the 607 computer code. Now, it's not to say that the computers don't go bad, but it's rare. Okay, like I said, I had so many of them with this back sensor. For some reason, it shorts out whether the signal is high, whether the signal is low, and the computer, you get the computer code right away. Now we're on the top, and the other O2 sensor is right here, and its plug is right there. Now that can set a P0136, all right? But even if it does, because this is an air fuel sensor, they call it. It's the same thing as the O2 sensor, but it's different. They're not interchangeable. And sometimes the front one could be bad, give you the back code, and then you have the other computer code, and like you're going around in circles. So the first thing you're going to want to do, if there is an O2 code, is replace the downstream bank 1 sensor to P0138 first, and erase everything, and you'll see if your code disappears. It probably will. Now, also that code, assuming, let's say, it all depends on what vehicle you have. Sometimes it could be, if it's just the computer code, the P0607, it could be that the car needs a software update, but that again is also rare. And when that sets that code, you're also going to notice that you're going to have codes for the traction control light or four-wheel drive light. All right, those are all going to be related. So it's not like you have all these problems. It's basically just one problem. And what I'm trying to say is that it can all boil. You can have 4 codes, all computer codes, and it all can boil down to that sensor in the back. Okay, to cut through all the chase. A lot of guys don't have special equipment and scan tools and everything, but you're going to need a scan tool, obviously, or somebody to pull the codes to know what codes you're dealing with. Okay, so, and that's basically it. And you'll probably get lucky and save a lot of money, and hopefully you won't need a trip to the dealership for a computer, because you can't just replace them. They have to be reprogrammed and all that stuff. So we're trying to avoid that. All right, guys. So this is MotorCarNut. Please subscribe, hit the like button. You learned something. I appreciate a super thanks or a donation to the channel to keep me going. This information and everything that I do takes a lot of time. I love doing it, but I also appreciate all the feedback and everything. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.